What is up, everyone? It is Destiny Diamond here alongside August Blaze, kicking off this week's episode of the Believe Wrestling Podcast. We've got a lot of stuff in store for you today. We have the Raw and SmackDown recap. We have some super dope hot takes. We have breaking news about the merger slash acquirement of AAA under the umbrella of WWE, as well as all of the news of the releases. There's a lot more than that to cover, but August, how you feeling right now, my man?
I am feeling like it is Cinco de Seso, baby. Cinco de Seso. Yeah, I wasn't recording, but Miss Darling Destiny Diamond's husband was off screen, and he said, man, yesterday was Cinco de Mayo. Doesn't that make today like Cinco de Seso? So, I don't think God would agree with you, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're wrong. I hope everybody's having a good day today. There's a lot going on, all right? So, we got a lot to touch upon, so we're just going to keep the ball rolling. Now, in regards to Raw and SmackDown recaps, they tend to go a little long for us. We tend to like to rant, so we're actually going to kind of do less bullet pointy stuff and do more digging into what we need to dig into. So these are actually just going to be the absolute highlights for Raw and SmackDown. We are going to be skipping a lot of segments. And Destiny, she hasn't seen this list that I've pulled up of stuff I particularly want to talk about. But if there's anything I skipped over that you're like, no, we need to talk about this, just let me know and I will certainly add it to the list as we talk here.
I will. There is one particular headline that I wrote down that I would like to touch upon from Monday Night Raw, and the headline that I came up with was Jay calls out Paul, gets Paul.
Yeah, yeah.
Miss Destiny Diamond, everybody.
Yeah, Miss Darling Destiny Diamond, everybody. Well, that brings us to actually a SmackDown and Raw recap. So not a lot really happening on SmackDown for a 3-hour show. For the most part, we're just very... Triple H's long-term booking has a lot of positives and negatives. I think the biggest negative is a lot of repetition from show to show to show. It's a lot of rematches. It's a lot of the same finishes over and over. And it's something I kind of hope to see him switch up because it is getting very, very stagnant show to show. I did want to touch upon Orton and Cena. We have been talking about this feud between these two, and not necessarily what happened on SmackDown. There was actually a moment, interestingly enough, with R-Truth. Kind of maybe teasing an R-Truth heel turn, which would be so funny if R-Truth is the reason that Cena retains at Judgment Day. Or at Judgment
all
Day.
My money.
At Backlash.
Take all my money. I want R-Truth to save his childhood hero, John Cena.
One thing I wanted to bring up to you, Destiny, is WWE has actually been showing a lot of history in the rivalry between these two. They've been doing a lot of recap packages from years ago events, 2013, 2009. So I wanted to bring up one of their finishes, which was not really controversial at the time. I don't remember what event. I think it was Night of Champions 2009, but I could be entirely wrong. But essentially...
Are you talking about their I Quit match? Because that is one of my favorite matches of theirs of all time. If not my number one that happened between the two of them.
I am not. That very well could have been Night of Champions 2009. I really got to touch upon my dates there. But they had a match where Orton was the defending champion, and he fought Cena, and they fought for like 15, 20 minutes, and it was a great match. And it finally got to the point where it was like the re-standoff, where they're both standing across the ring from each other again. And Orton leans in close, and he just blindside bitch smacks the referee and causes the disqualification. Yep. And I've seen a lot of reposts of that happening. And I've seen a person or two bring up the fact, wouldn't that be interesting if this match ends the same way? But with the roles reversed of John Cena being the one to smack the referee to get himself disqualified in a payback move to Orton from 16 years ago. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I have seen a lot of discourse on the internet about this exact topic. This is one of my favorite moments because it's something that does not happen ever, and I'm happy that it doesn't happen very often because this is such an easy, cheap way out. This is such an easy, cheap retention for a champion. The disqualification. This is just so perfect. I'm so thankful that this is something that is protected because it's just so perfect, and it was so perfect for Orton and his character at the time, and it's so perfect for John Cena and his character today. I would absolutely love to see a callback to this. I'm loving all of the callbacks that are being done right now, not only in this feud but other ones as well, and I'm excited to see how history potentially repeats itself in this match. I love these two. When I first started watching wrestling, these were the two that really kept me watching week to week. These were my two favorites, and I have always loved every time they faced off.
I agree it could be interesting, but they have to be careful. WrestleMania Night 2 ended in a very unsatisfactory way for a lot of people. So they do, you want to make sure people feel like they get their money's worth. And considering the fact there's not a ton of star power on Backlash, this match needs to deliver as a big match. Because there's not really any other big matches on Backlash. There's a lot of building matches. But this is supposed to be like the culmination of maybe the last time these guys fight in their storied 20 years of history between each other. So this match really needs to deliver, and I swear to God, if we're 3 minutes into the match and Cena gets himself disqualified, it would be the ultimate heel move. He would get booed, but at the end of the day, there's more to wrestling than just getting yourself hated.
I have to tell you, I don't see it happening 3 minutes into the match. If it does happen, I see it happening similarly to Orton, the way that it was, several minutes, or like 15, 20 minutes into the match. I definitely see it being that way, especially because they are the two biggest stars on the card. Obviously, there is a lot of other star power, but nothing on the caliber of an Orton and a Cena. Now, something that I want to shift to real quick. You're telling me that this is the main event and not Gunther versus Pat McAfee?
Yeah. I am so... I got a lot of thoughts and feelings about Gunther.
I'm sure you
So
do.
We'll talk about that as we get to our Backlash prediction section.
Yes. We will touch on that later, of course. I just had to, I know what I had to do. I am so excited for this match. I think that if this is one final time between these two, I think that they need to have a perfect blow off at Backlash. So I really don't see it being, like you said, 3 minutes in. I'm just excited to see where it goes, and I'm excited for this match because I think that it's going to be a great main event. But that's me and my optimistic mind.
I got my fingers crossed, right? Trying to be optimistic here as well. I think the problem they've kind of painted themselves into here is what story do they need to tell? Not only balancing Randy Orton moving forwards, because Randy Orton can't really suffer a sound defeat here, and John Cena needs to get some more heat in this match to continue this streak of momentum. People are already talking like, oh, Cena's going to turn back babyface soon. And I'm like, you guys are dumb. You guys are dumb. I don't know how people are thinking Cena's going to turn babyface in the next couple months. I genuinely feel like this is the ride that we are in for until December. I think Cena's final match, as soon as the ref hits 1, 2, 3 and Cena gets pinned, that's when Cena turns face again. But it's not only balancing current day, trying to get Cena over as a heel and trying to keep Orton relevant as a babyface, but at the same time, how do you write the final chapter of this story so people can look back and it's a good story from start to finish? Because you don't want people to... The Crown Jewel 2018, Shawn Michaels and Triple H versus Kane and The Undertaker. Every time people bring up the feud of Triple H Undertaker or Shawn Michaels the Undertaker. That gets brought up as like the sour ending to that, and we don't want that for Orton Cena. We want to be able to look at this feud and say, this was one of the greatest feuds of all time, and it ended as one of the greatest feuds of all time, and keep that energy moving forward. So, fingers crossed they figure out a good enough way to present this match, that both stars are healthy throughout the match and no injuries happen, because Lord forbid Cena get injured on his final year. And we
don't
just
need
got
to talk about that.
Yeah, we just got Orton back, so I don't want any injuries more than anything else. I want good health for these men, and hopefully we can get a great resounding final chapter.
You know, you mentioned what is the story that they're going to tell, and I think that now more than ever it is so important to build Cena up to be a super strong heel, because we touched on it, I believe, last week, how Cena has been flat on his back every single time we've seen him since the Elimination Chamber, even after WrestleMania, with the exception of WrestleMania, night 2. But what I'm saying is every time he's been on weekly episodic television, he's flat on his back. He has not gotten any offense in, and he is just getting taken down night after night after night. That needs to change. It's getting kind of annoying, and I really want to see Cena get the upper hand in a strong way. And obviously, I know there's going to be some shenanigans. There may be some cheating. There could even be a disqualification. But he still needs to look strong throughout 95% of the match.
Yeah, and see, this is the hard part when you're booking Cena in his last year is, yes, you do want that. But if this is the last time these two men face, you want this match to... It's hard to make the match do multiple things that you try to get done here. So... I really hope we get something good going off here.
So, of course, up next, we're talking Naomi and Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax and Jade Cargill and all of the shenanigans that are happening over on SmackDown in the women's division.
Yeah, so we had a tag match to actually close out SmackDown of Naomi and Nia versus Stratton and Jade. And it actually ended with a pretty clean finish of Jade pretty soundly defeating Nia Jax with a pinfall. But then to close out the show was actually Naomi hitting Jade from behind and Naomi standing tall holding the championship above the fallen rivals that she has. So I don't know if we're setting up for a Fatal 4 here. A Fatal 4-way. I think it's interesting to have Nia take this pin so soundly here. I'm glad it wasn't Naomi, is what I will say, and I'm surprised the match didn't just get thrown out by shenanigans, which is typically what you would expect. But to have Nia get defeated so soundly was a very interesting choice, considering she just came back and her last run was so dominant. So Nia not looking great coming out of this, so it almost makes me think maybe we're building towards a triple threat of Naomi, Stratton, and Jade for that first Women's Evolution, or Women's Evolution 2.
Yeah. Something that I think is very interesting about that is because last week you even mentioned how important it is to build up Nia Jax as a legitimate threat for the title, because last time she and Tiffany faced off at Elimination Chamber, and of course, like you said, granted, it was a tag team match, but Tiffany looked like an absolute superstar, and she pinned Nia clean. That's something that is so important to mention, is that Nia doesn't really have a gripe about why she deserves a title shot. And being pinned clean again just solidifies that fact. So if they do want to make it a Fatal 4-way, they really need to legitimize Nia, make her a legitimate threat, have her pin Jade, pin Naomi, even pin Tiffany, whatever they have to do, or else Nia just needs to be pushed to the back once again.
One thing that I really want to talk about, and I don't have it as a note here, but I really think they need to go back to brand split pay-per-views. I think the big 4 or big 5, including, if you want to include Money in the Bank in that, which would make sense. I think that should be, but I almost think it would be so cool to do a men's Money in the Bank at WrestleMania and like a women's Money in the Bank at SummerSlam, just to kind of split them up, give them that extra layer of importance as their own match. And just do something like that, or even have night 1 of WrestleMania the men's, night 2 of WrestleMania the women's. Just do something. Money in the Bank, to me, shouldn't be its own pay-per-view. I think you should save that for the big four, like how Royal Rumble has its own thing surrounding it, Survivor Series has its own thing. Money in the Bank felt so much like a WrestleMania. It was like WrestleMania is coming up, I'm looking forward to Money in the Bank. And now that's gone, and they tried to replace it with like the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and that never really worked out. So it's they need something to get more people on the card at Mania, and what better way than to have such a prize like that, and what a great way to shake up the roster going into summer, because you look at the people they strapped that case to, and it was guys who had never won the World Championship. You had Edge, you had Rob Van Dam, you had CM Punk, you had Edge again, you had CM Punk again. It was actually Kennedy, but Edge kind of finagled his way into that one.
Yeah.
But it
Kind of like how it was Otis and The Miz finagled his way into that one.
Which was the right call. And so was Edge and Kennedy.
Oh, 100%.
Oh my God. That was...
I mean, listen, I love Kennedy, but I mean, Edge is Edge. Edge is the man. Edge is the rated R superstar. I love him so much. It was the right call. But also, like, Miz twice. Oh, God, but can we talk about, I mean, also Dolph Ziggler, Damian Priest, funny enough, Drew McIntyre, but also you have the likes of Baron Corbin, John Cena, and Damian Sandow, who were all unsuccessful cashing in. Like, bro.
Yeah, I did put a section to talk more about Money in the Bank a little later, but what I really wanted to focus on...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, later on, I would love to hear your picks for the men's and women's victor of the Money in the Bank ladder matches. But, of course, like you said, we will touch on that later today.
Yeah, I just think having... The problem they're having with the pay-per-views feeling almost lackluster going into each one would be immediately solved. Having championships like completely fall off the radar. There's so many issues they have right now that would be completely resolved if they just went to brand split pay-per-views for everything outside the big 4/5 with Money in the Bank. If this pay-per-view coming up was specifically a SmackDown pay-per-view, it would have a spot on the card for every SmackDown championship. And you could make sure every SmackDown championship is defended on every SmackDown pay-per-view. And that's still a 5 to 6 match card. You have the women's main, the women's mid, the men's main, the men's mid, and then the tag team. And occasionally the women's tag team, you can alternate that between whatever, because that's kind of the multi-brand championship. But that's 5 to 6 title matches there. And you still have room for another match or another 2 matches, depending, in terms of if you want to do kind of a Drew McIntyre, Damian Priest type feud that's not for the championship, but they still deserve to be on the card. And that would add so much importance back to the titles.
Absolutely. I just remember back when it was brand split pay-per-views and you got 2 pay-per-views a month, how awesome that was. That was so much extra wrestling, so much extra content, so much extra fun just to get to sit down and watch wrestling and do what we love. I loved that. Something that I think about is how they aren't brand split pay-per-views, and Triple H likes to cap it at 5 matches. That's not enough to showcase all the talent that they have, and it's really getting to me. I would really love to see that shakeup start to happen with brand split pay-per-views when the next draft comes up.
Yeah, fingers crossed for that. So I just wanted to bring that up. It's been something that's been bothering me a little bit that I did want to air out. We might go more in depth in that in the future here, but we got Monday Night Raw to talk about now, and it was a hell of a show, in my opinion.
It really was. I was sitting down and, this first bullet point that you brought up that you have right here in front of us, this is what I wanted to talk about when Jay called out Paul and he got Paul. Jay Uso, your World Heavyweight Champion, calling out his opponent at Backlash, Logan Paul, but instead he gets the wise man, Paul Heyman. And I am a Paul Heyman girl. Yes, sir.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, this was such a good promo by Paul Heyman.
Everybody's saying that he was crashing out, which he was. But was he wrong? No, he was 100% in the right. Everybody's booing him, but he's right.
Yeah, I just find it super interesting the bringing up the fact, I just, there was so many layers to this. I love the fact they did Seth Rollins versus Jey Uso, because they addressed that. Paul Heyman came out and he said Seth deserves a title shot, and he gave backing behind that. He said, I'm sorry, Seth won the main event of WrestleMania against Roman Reigns and CM Punk. If anybody deserves to be the number one contender, he's your guy. And then letting Jey Uso choose when he defends the title, and Jey Uso being like, well, I'll do it right here, right now, tonight. Let's do it. This is awesome. I do want to point out to you, because you just mentioned this, and it made me go, hold on. And I looked, and it just blew my mind. Logan Paul versus Jey Uso, not on Backlash.
Wait, when is it supposed to happen? Because I thought it was supposed to be for Backlash. Did I miss something?
No clue. It is not on the official card anywhere. I just did this up for the thing. I have the card posted because we are going to be talking about Backlash predictions, but it is not on the card.
Yeah, of course.
And I just Googled it, and...
Well, that is insane.
Yeah, a handful of different articles saying why this isn't on the card.
Yeah, because I thought that Logan specifically said Backlash, but I must be misremembering, because I thought that this was happening at Backlash just based on all of the things that happened between Jey and Logan, especially when they went off the air. And after they went off the air, Logan came through the audience and attacked Jey and took him out. You would think that this would be happening, but I guess they want to give it more time to build?
I guess so.
I don't know.
Which doesn't make sense to me, because, yeah, I think this is the problem we're talking about, is... Yeah. So, no Jey Uso,
anyway.
No Seth Rollins, no CM Punk, no Roman Reigns, no Jey Uso on the Backlash card. No Cody Rhodes on the Backlash card. So it is some of their absolute top stars are sitting on the bench for the first pay-per-view after Mania. The matches on the card absolutely need to deliver. So, Paul Heyman cutting the promo of his lifetime. I really love that promo. It was very impassioned. And Jey Uso's response of saying, we doing this tonight, was incredible. And the match fucking delivered. But we will talk about that as we get down there. But hell of a start to Raw.
Exactly. Because what I want to talk about is, you know, Paul Heyman is obviously on Seth Rollins' side, but during that promo, he was putting over Roman Reigns. He was putting over CM Punk, and he was talking about how incredible these two men are. And he talked about all of their accolades and everything that they've been through and everything they've accomplished. And of course, just to hype up Seth more, that he was the one that was victorious. These two have all these accomplishments, these accolades, these championships, this history. And yet Seth was the one that walked away victorious. Now, obviously, during this whole thing, Paul is screaming, I'm right, which he was, because I'm just sitting there like, you know, like Randy Jackson. Why are you booing me? I'm right. Or maybe it was Hannibal Buress in the picture. I don't know. But it's that meme where it's like, why are you booing me? I'm right. But the thing is, then they get backstage and Paul goes up to Seth and he says, he fell for it. He fell for it. Almost like he was just manipulating and lying to Jey the whole time. Like, what's that all about? Come on.
Next up, the thing we need to talk about for Monday Night Raw is Sheamus's return. Your boy talked, I think it was 2 weeks ago during the podcast when we talked about our top 5 current wrestlers, and Sheamus is it was number 5 for my list. I love Sheamus, and he looked friggin' good here. It was dominating fashion. It wasn't a squash match, thank God, because I don't think Theory can go through that again. But the setup of leading into this, where we didn't know who Austin Theory's opponent was going to be, and Waller kind of goaded him into taking this match, was really good. I really love that. The problem here, though, is again, Triple H loves his long-term storytelling, and he thinks that, well, I can put these guys, that he's been telling this Austin Theory, Grayson Waller story of them starting to turn on each other. It feels like for years now. And they needed to pull the trigger like 8 months ago, and they still haven't. And that is just so... it needs to boil over eventually, because Theory and Waller have nothing going on. And I do understand, a lot of people, I feel like they don't. But you can't push everybody, and especially at the same time. The problem is if you weren't going to push them like that, you need to give them something else to do. They can't sit in the same position, kind of half turned on each other for 2 years and just kind of sit on your hands and just wait for the big turn to finally happen when you have a spot available for it. Something else needs to give here.
Well, the thing is, you mentioned how this has kind of been multiple years, or it feels like it's been multiple years in the making. It's absolutely, definitely, without a doubt, been over a year in the making, because leading into WrestleMania 40 last year, leading into the tag team ladder match, people were talking about how it was time to pull the trigger then and to split them then, because the bubbles had been brewing even at that point. And then they ended up winning the damn titles in the ladder match, which was amazing. I'm such a huge fan of A-Town Down Under. I'm a huge fan of Austin Theory, and I'm a huge fan of Grayson Waller. I think these guys both have so much potential. And I truly do believe they have more potential as a tag team. Like, there are more things that they have the ability to do together. I think they're entertaining as hell. But if you're going to be teasing this turn for over a year, it's overdone and it needs to change.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do love the team. And I am with Destiny here in terms of, I think everybody talks about Austin Theory's the big star. I really think Grayson Waller has one hell of a future ahead of him. He kind of popped up on my radar when he had the mini feud with Shawn Michaels, of all people. Now, of course, they didn't actually wrestle, but they that's what brought his name to my face for the first time, where I was like, all right, who the hell is this kid? Because people were like, Shawn's coming out of retirement to fight this guy. And I was like, I don't think so. And he didn't. But it brought me interest into his character, and I've been watching his work, and he does some solid character work with his character. He's one of the few people who plays the bad guy in the ring and not just this cartoonish villain. Oh, well, I'll just cheat to win. But you can see his thought process behind that. You don't get to see that with a lot of people. You can kind of see those links forming, him being like, I can do this to do this to do this. And that's where fans fall in love. That's what I call the Eddie Guerrero effect. If everybody tries to do the Eddie spot of, oh, I'll just like hit the ground with a chair, throw the chair at my opponent and collapse. That wasn't what the fans loved. It's a great moment, and it's like the explosion of the firework going off. But the moment was when the ref would take the bump, and Eddie would look at the camera with this shit-eating grin, where he would be like, oh, this is it. And every time it's when Eddie fucking looks at the opponent down, looks at the ref down, and then looks at the hard cam with the stupidest fucking look on his face. That was the moment that fucking drew people in. And Eddie's being cheesy and over the top as he grabs the chair title belt. That's what people love, is the build up to the big moments to sell the big moment. And a lot of people don't really get that. I feel like Grayson Waller does understand the linking of the moments to get to the big thing is so much more important.
Well, people are also talking about how Austin Theory is the star of this tag team. Grayson Waller's been carrying this team on his back, because what does Austin do except react? Nothing. Grayson Waller is the one that is doing 90% of the talking. He's the one that's carrying the story. He's the one that's carrying the tag team. He is absolutely magnificent, and he is a future star, and I'm so excited to see what comes from him. Now, something I do want to touch on, you talked about how, they're kind of floundering on the sidelines, which isn't wrong. Like, they've had this same story, like I said, for over a year, probably a year and a half at least now. But they do have something going for them, which I like to call the Chelsea Green effect, which is where they do those extra things. They do extra things on social media. They make sure that the social media team is getting into it. They have the perfect tweets, the perfect online presence for it. But they also insert themselves into things like the post shows, the pre-shows. They get on the panels of people that are talking about matches coming up, and they also interject into things like the Slammy Awards, and they just decide, I'm just going to stay here all night. They really are making the most of everything that they have, and they're not given a lot of time, but they make time in the other places that they have the ability to. And I think that that's fantastic.
I agree with you that is fantastic. I think that they do a really good job, and a lot of the roster does, at despite these overly long storylines, staying relevant at the end. It really letting that boost their careers. The problem that I see is it just slows their process to a glacial pace, because like you look at CM Punk as a perfect example of this. CM Punk came back over a year and a half ago. He made his return to the company, and since then he's feuded with Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns, and that's it. Like, it's crazy that in 18 months we've gotten 3 stories from this guy. And it's great because you look at the storytelling told, and that's amazing. I wouldn't have changed a thing for CM Punk's booking. The problem is you can't have every star be that way. A-Town Down Under, when they get to 40, 50 years old and they're ending their careers, this is 2 years of their careers, a year and a half, 2 years of their careers where they did nothing. They just floundered. And same with Chelsea Green, where she does make the most out of these little moments, but you need to do something with the character, even if it's not chasing a title. I'm not saying you have to push them. But look at Molly Holly. Molly Holly looked at it and she said, I'm going to do a storyline where I go to WrestleMania and I get my head shaved. Like, that's something for your character. And they don't need to have that high of stakes where you're betting a full head of hair. Lord forbid that would ever happen to me. But you need to have something there for the talents to sink their teeth into and tell these interesting stories and tell these tales that aren't... Like, you look at Rey Mysterio, Dominic Mysterio, I don't understand. I remember when Dom turned on Rey and Edge, and it was like 8 months till Mania or 7 months till Mania. And people were like, how are they going to draw this out until WrestleMania? And not only did they draw it out for one WrestleMania, but the next fucking year they did it again. And it was Rey versus Dom again, but this time in a tag team match. And I was terrified they were going to do it again this year and just randomly bring Rey back into the whole story. And I thought that was coming. And it's... You look at the glacial pace that the stories take, and some stories need to be that pace. CM Punk is a perfect example of that. Seth Rollins is a perfect example of that. Roman Reigns is a perfect example of that. But some stories need to be told quicker. I really hope we can get some... Not every feud needs to be a year and a half long. Some of them need to be... Like Jey Uso versus Logan Paul right now. They should be fighting at Backlash. It should be a one-and-done deal, and we can move on to the next match. That's what should be happening right now. But instead, we're extending the story out until at least the next pay-per-view. I rest my case with that. Destiny, any last thoughts regarding this? Ironically, I don't know how we got to this point, but we're talking about Sheamus's return. Pretty crazy. Love Sheamus.
Amazing. I love this man so much, and I loved the backstage shenanigans. I keep saying shenanigans all pod, and I get that. I know it's overused. I know there are other words I could use, but I mean, just the manipulation from Grayson Waller to get Austin Theory into the ring. You could not have prepared me for this, because honestly, I was expecting a Penta, an Aleister Black, a Rusev, a Dragon Lee, or Rey Fenix type of person. Nothing could have prepared me for Sheamus. I popped so hard on my couch, because I am just like you. I am a Sheamus hardcore fan. I love this man. I've met him twice. He is phenomenal. I love him. But also, he has been so underutilized. This is something I touched on, how it was teased at the Royal Rumble that he would be facing Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania, or even sometime before that, and we never truly got that. So I'm excited to see what happens with Sheamus's return. It was a triumphant victory for Sheamus, and it's good to see him back, and I am excited to see maybe he kicks the head off of Grayson Waller next.
Well, this is actually a great segue into our next little thing here, talking about Judgment Day. Because Dom brought up a very funny point where he was kind of bitching to Finn. Well, Finn was in the background stewing about Dominic bitching. And Dom was like, being champion is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. He's like, everybody wants this thing. And he's mentioned it. He's like, man, like Penta's after me for this title. And like AJ Styles is gunning for me now. And Sheamus versus Dominic Mysterio, I think you could do that at SummerSlam. Sheamus could get his title. get his title victory. Dominic could win the title back next night on Raw, and it doesn't matter. Sheamus gets his Grand Slam victory. Dominic is now a 2-time Intercontinental Champion, and I don't think anybody's mad at that whatsoever. And it would
almost be a callback to his. It would almost be a callback back to his North American title reign, because he won the NXT North American Championship, lost it, and won it back.
The 50-50 booking back and forth is it's a double-edged sword. It can either work really well for you or really not. Dominic is one of those that is almost the exception to the rule. He can lose any match or he can win any match, and you can get away with it because he's fucking Dominic Mysterio. Rare. It's the Ric Flair effect. He can lose any night, he can win any night. You never know. So I do really love that.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
The heat stewing between Finn Balor when he was sitting there listening to Dominic bitch about this, and then Dominic says, "Hey, AJ Styles used to be your boy. Like, do you think maybe you could take care of him?" And Finn kind of goes off on him for a second. He's like, "I'm just kidding, man. Of course I'd do that for you." I like that they're continuing to tease this and keep this at the forefront. This is where long-term storytelling works, but you have to keep that ball rolling with little moments like this. You can't just tease the iron's really hot, and then suddenly there's no mention of it for 3 months, and then the iron's really hot again out of nowhere, and it's like, oh my god. That doesn't work every time. And so this is one where you can slowly see Finn stewing and getting angrier and angrier, and he's like, no, I'll swallow my pride. No, we'll keep doing this. No. So I really love that. I can't wait for the eventual actual blow up there, and I'm excited to see AJ Styles kind of inserted into this Intercontinental Championship title picture, because I mean, you look at some of the matches we could have here. AJ Styles Penta, AJ Styles Sheamus Penta, all of those versus Dominic, all of those versus Finn Balor. Like, there are some dream matches here, and I am excited to get my grubby little hands on. Mic drop.
Well, you brought up AJ, and this is something I really want to touch on with AJ. The history between him and Finn, it's so there, and I'm so excited to see what story is told there, especially with him coming in and saying, "Hey, Prince," just calling him Prince, and I'm like, oh, my soul, I love it. But now there are a couple things I want to talk about within this segment, and I'm so sad about one of them, and it's AJ Styles and how many times he fumbled over his words. I love you, AJ, but I have to give props to the Judgment Day for how they handled it, because they were just poking fun at him, stumbling over his words. They're like calling him old man, calling him all these things. He's like, you know what, I am an old man, but I'm still gonna kick your ass for the Intercontinental Championship. So I love seeing that it's live, though. That's pretty great. But something that I think is even more important to touch on. Obviously, Liv Morgan has taken some time off to go and film her movie, which is absolutely incredible. Here's my question. When somebody in the Judgment Day is a champion and they're holding gold, when do you ever see them without that gold? You don't. In the background, Raquel Rodriguez is in the background. She does not have her tag team championship. She does not have Liv's tag team championship. It's almost as if they're trying to make us completely forget about the tag team titles altogether, and maybe they're just going to get rid of them, which is absolutely ludicrous. Because how amazing would it be to see Raquel Rodriguez standing in the background of the Judgment Day's hideout, just sitting there, one belt around her waist, one over her shoulder, keeping it safe for Liv. You're telling me, like, she doesn't even have to speak, but her just standing there with both? That right there is a statement in and of itself, and it's so Judgment Day, and I can't believe they're not doing it.
You know what they call that?
Also,
Raquel 2 belts.
Yes, sir. Also, something that I want you to talk about more than me. Can we talk about who told AJ where the Judgment Day's hideout was?
I wish the delivery on this line was a little more pointed. But him just coming in and being like, "Oh, Truth showed me. Truth told me about it." It was amazing. Was amazing. I do want to touch upon, I do think, although that image would be striking, I think WWE wants, I pray to God, I don't think they're getting rid of the women's tag titles. I think they've just gotten a lot of heat because Liv is now taking time off after they just won the titles. And so they're trying to be like, hey, forget about the titles for a minute. When Liv comes back, the titles will reappear, which is stupid.
So frustrating.
Raquel should hold her title. However, I think Liv should have hers because she's doing this movie. She's going to be backstage a lot. I think not backstage is what I say, but she's going to be on set a lot. And the more exposure she can get with the championship, I think is cool. But at the same time, she almost doesn't, wrestling's such a dirty thing. Like, if people know you're a wrestler, people are like, oh, you're a wrestler. And so she almost doesn't want to be seen with that championship. And people are saying this movie, she could become the next Hollywood, like, darling. So I do have that under news, so we will talk upon Liv Morgan some more. Judgment Day, so pretty good stuff here. AJ did fumble his words a little bit, but for the most part, pretty good segment there. But it had nothing on Becky Lynch versus Lyra Valkyria.
Lyra just gets better and better every single week. God. Now, you know I'm not the biggest Lyra fan. I know that you are. But she has continued to impress week after week, especially ever since WrestleMania. And this was her night. This was her night to shine. This was her moment. And I tried so hard to find an exact transcript of everything she said. But it was so... I couldn't find it, but it was so damn good. Her coming out and talking about how everything was fine with Becky Lynch gone. She was there and she capitalized on it, and she's going to be leading it into the future. And how... God, I can't even remember what she said, but it was just, I just remember just sitting on my couch with my jaw on the ground. Like, how is this woman, how is she saying these words to the man right now? And also, can we talk about Becky talking about how she took out the trash that is Bailey? Perfect. Say it again, Becky, for the people in the back.
You're missing the point of this, Ashley, that Becky is 100% coming out after this. I think... Well, I guess I'll save that for Backlash predictions, but I do think Becky v. Bailey is coming very, very, very soon, and they're holding off on that for a reason. But yeah, Lyra was phenomenal here, really proving that she deserves to be on the stage with Becky Lynch. And this is one of those rare moments of Lyra can lose clean to Becky. And she should at the pay-per-view. But as long as she has a good showing, as long as she fights hard and they give her enough time here, this can be a star-making performance. She does not need to win this match. She just needs to have a good match against Becky. And it will do wonders for her career. I loved this segment. I loved this segment. Becky's so much better as a heel. I love her as a babyface. I really do. So much better. But oh my God, listening to her just go off on everything is amazing.
Becky is one of those rare people where she is as good as a babyface as she is a heel. I mean, to be fair, yes, I do agree she is better as a heel, but she is so beyond magical as a babyface, and she's one of those few babyfaces that you can truly believe in and get behind. I mean, obviously you do with all baby faces, but she's one of those ones that hits you in your gut, hits you in your heart, hits you in your soul. And she does the exact same thing as a heel, but in the exact opposite way, and it's so great to see. I love Becky, and like you said, this is going to be a star-making performance for Lyra, and her match at Becky is going to catapult her to the next level. I think it would be a disservice to Lyra and a disservice to the wrestling fans if this was not strung out for at least another month following before we capitalize on the Becky Bailey situation. I think maybe save those two for SummerSlam.
See, and this is... We'll talk about this. We'll talk about this under predictions because I have some very strong feelings about that. But we will definitely talk about that under predictions there. But following a strong promo with another strong promo here, Gunther Pat McAfee was better than it had any right to be. in terms of this mini promo battle here. McAfee coming to Michael Cole's aid once again during the promo, when Gunther kind of tried to not really badmouth him, but essentially was going down that road. Gunther just looks scary here. Gunther legitimately, you hear what he's saying and he believes what he's saying, and it is a terrifying experience to listen to. So I'm excited for that. McAfee, this ultimate scrappy underdog babyface here, who's like, I'm just a man who's fighting for what's right, basically. I don't know what the hell that voice was. That's not Pat McAfee. But I'm happy for this feud. I'm really worried how this goes at the pay-per-view.
I don't know what you were talking about. That was a perfect Pat McAfee impression. I have to say, I know that we should probably save this for predictions. Pat McAfee's going to get murdered at Backlash. I know that's going to be under predictions, but y'all can just quote me, copy, paste me there. Like you said, Gunther was scary here. Now, here's the thing. Pat was hyping himself up like crazy, and he had a lot of beautiful things to say. And for Gunther to just be like, how old's your daughter? Just turned 2? And, you know, then he just continued to talk about how he was going to end McAfee and how this was not going to be pretty and how he's going to continue to be a triumphant competitor. And I'm just so excited to see a new side of Gunther that we haven't seen in a while, because we've seen him as the defending champion for, like Pat McAfee said, 80% of his career. So now seeing him not just without a title, but he's also not fighting for a title. This is something so much bigger. This is something so much more personal. This is his reputation on the line. This is wrestling as we know it on the line, because this is a former football player turned commentator. This is not a fellow professional wrestler that Gunther's going to be facing. So, for the sanctity of pro wrestling itself, this has to be a squash match in the eyes of Gunther. He has to absolutely destroy Pat McAfee in every way, shape, and form, metaphorically and literally, and everywhere in between.
Yeah, we'll talk more under predictions, but I'm not hopeful that that's going to happen. I really don't think it will. We'll talk more under predictions. The main event was a fucking bop. It was a fucking unskinny bop, motherfuckers, and this is why. Seth Rollins...
Unskinny bop, 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 bop.
Blows me away. Seth Rollins is the fucking man, and Jey Uso continues to prove his doubters wrong. This match was great. The false finishes were a bit much for my taste for a random episode of Raw. But
Disagree. I think that that's what elevates the product right there, but please continue.
I agree with that. It does elevate the product, but it is one of those things where it's become a staple of Seth Rollins matches of... I can't remember the last time Seth Rollins put somebody away with one curb stomp. CM Punk kicks out of like 4 or 5 every time these guys... wrestle
Don't
up.
get me started.
So the false finishes were great. Don't get me wrong there. It's just one of those things where you have to be careful to not cheapen your finish. And Seth Rollins' curb stomp is so fucking devastating looking. That's why I don't like people kicking out of the curb stomp. A lot of the spear, it's whatever. Kick out of the spear, but the curb stomp looks fucking terrifying.
Yeah, especially Jey Uso's spear. Dear God, please stop using it.
Yeah, Jey Uso needs a different finish. I don't know what it is, but he feels like Roman Reigns light because he's doing the spear. And the Uso splash is great. He wants to use his super kicks, that's fine. But the spear is just so... It feels like when Christian started using the spear. And it was like, what are you doing? What are you doing, buddy? What are you doing? The Unprettier is so much better.
So much better. And also calling Jey Uso Roman Reigns light is such a disservice to Roman Reigns. How dare you?
Jey isn't that bad. I love Jey Uso. He's great. I just think he needs a better...
polar opposites.
I don't think so.
I do.
Tell me Big Dog 2017 Roman Reigns versus 2025 Yeet Jey Uso are entirely different characters, and you would be wrong.
Was Roman Reigns coming out yoked out of his mind, freaking high as a fucking kite, saying yeet and dancing around?
Have you not seen the backstage interview of the first time the Shield hit the double triple power bomb? And Roman Reigns is arguing.
The real one is
it's a double triple power bomb.
You put two of them in and it's a double triple power bomb.
Yeah. Okay. Point
of course
proven.
I've seen it.
Point proven. Case in point.
No.
Proven.
Absolutely
Roman
not.
Reigns delivered suffering succotash as a line in a promo. Suffering succotash as a line in a promo. And you're going to tell me he wasn't Jey Uso yeet cringeworthy.
Let me tell you, that was the most cringy line I've ever heard in a professional wrestling promo of all time, and you can quote me on that. However, my difference is Roman Reigns was told to say that, where Jay would just say it for the sake of saying it.
Jay would make it sound good. You're right. Jey Uso's better than Roman Reigns. Yeah, this match was just incredible. I thought the interferences were done really, really well. Seth distracting the referee. It wasn't a full-bore ref bump in any capacity, but Seth kind of lightly bumping into the ref and then talking with the ref. Well, Jay kind of got taken advantage of by Braun Breaker was a great false finish. Because then Seth did his Falcon Arrow, which was like almost like a release. He did the superplex into the Falcon Arrow, but the Falcon Arrow was almost like a release. The landing was really cool. I really liked that. And then he hit the stomp, and everybody thought the match was over.
Very interesting.
It was like, holy shit.
I literally was grabbing my phone to call you. Yeah, I was grabbing my phone to call you because I was going to say, yo, new champ, new champ, new champ. And then he kicked out and I wasn't mad because I loved the story that they were telling and I loved the involvement of Sami Zayn.
Yeah, this was great. And then, yeah, Sami made his appearance, which it makes sense. And this is where Triple H's long-term storytelling is a major positive. Because now Sami Zayn isn't just there for this reason or that reason or that reason. This is what's so cool is he vowed to be, he literally told Seth, he's like, look, you're going to be, essentially what he said boiled down to, if you're going to be evil, I will be the good to rise against it. And so he's out there to even the odds against Seth Rollins, which is what he said. He told Seth he's going to even the scales, essentially. But then he's also out there to get revenge on Braun Breaker, who is the one who demolished him last week. But then he's also out there to support Uso, right? One of his closest friends in the wrestling business. So it's just so cool how it's multi-layered like that. And it makes sense for Sami to come out. It's not just... This is when people interfere in the match and you're like, you're not upset about it. You're like, oh my God, yeah, so Sami's here. Sami's out here. And you're hitting your friends and you're pumped because it's not just, oh, well, this is predictable. It's predictable in a good way. It makes sense.
Exactly. Because it's not just a babyface saving a babyface. This is a former brother in arms saving his brother in arms from two of the men that he is feuding with the hardest, the most recently, but he also has a storied history with them. He also had such a huge blowout with Rollins on Raw back in December. I want to say December 1st or 2nd in Seattle. I was there. But it was when Punk was just so beyond obsessed with Punk. He was driving himself insane. And then Sami Zayn comes out to just be the voice of reason and be like, hey, buddy, I'm your friend. I'm here for you. But you gotta, you gotta forget CM Punk. He's in the past. You gotta calm down. You gotta stop letting him ruin your life. And Seth's like, well, screw you. If you're not gonna be there for me, then, then this is done, And then they end up facing each other in the main event.
Which I absolutely loved because how that tied into the whole story and how it progressed from... Because Seth was pissed that he was approached to be Roman Reigns' fifth man for the match. And Seth was like, haha, no, I'm not doing that. And when it was CM Punk...
No.
And Sami Zayn was included in that. It gave Seth reasons to hate both of those men. And so he looked at Sami, he's like, I don't hate you, Sami. He goes, but I do have a problem with you supporting the monster Roman Reigns. And Seth was in the right there from his perspective, and so was Sami.
Absolutely.
That's what makes this...
Roman never apologized.
Roman's a piece of shit. Jey Uso would have apologized.
So
and
that's why Roman Reigns and Jey Uso are nothing alike.
But 2018 Roman Reigns would have apologized. It would have been 2017. 2018 was the "this is my yard now" Roman Reigns, which that's not who I'm talking about. Anyways, this brings us to the final false finish of the match here, where Seth has this match won, and CM Punk comes out. He does a genius workaround as Braun Breaker goes to hit him on the ramp. Punk throws the chair at Braun and then hits the chair into Braun because he can't hit him in the head with the steel chair. Beautiful. Which I loved so much more than the ridiculous gut shots that they do. I get you can't hit them in the head with the chair, but oh my god, it's so baked into wrestling culture that you see every wrestler instinctively cock the chair back like they're going to nail him in the head, and then at the last second they're like, oh shit, and then they hit him in the stomach instead. Which makes me, it makes me laugh every time.
We've been seeing quite a few headshots recently. I can't think of exactly who, but I noticed it at least twice so far in 2025.
It's happened a lot in AEW.
Feels one happened in the ladder match. One even happened in the ladder match, the triple threat ladder match that happened on SmackDown.
They also did it at, I think Punk hit Seth and Punk when they were feuding at Mania in the audience. But it was I remember watching it live and being like, oh shit, like that's pretty damn close to being a headshot. But it was like he released his hands at the last second, so he just dropped it on his head or whatever. But the momentum was still there.
Yeah.
Anyways, Punk comes out, causes this match to be thrown out, and nobody was really disappointed in this because CM Punk is back.
No.
Which is very interesting that they are doing. I really thought this would lead to Punk Rollins being put on the Backlash card. It was not. I think Punk Rollins kind of needed to be on the Backlash card for the sake of Backlash and needing that extra star power.
If they had another week, it would have definitely been added to the Backlash card. But this pay-per-view just came out of nowhere, and it came up so freaking fast. WrestleMania was 3 weeks ago, not even. Like, it's too soon for another pay-per-view, especially coming off the heels of WrestleMania.
Yeah, it's just... I don't know. I'm not hyped for Backlash, and I want to be hyped for Backlash. But with so many top stars off the card, I essentially have Drew McIntyre and Becky Lynch and Lyra, and that's it. We'll talk about it. All right. But yeah, that brings us to our final SmackDown and Raw recap there. SmackDown was pretty skippable this week, which is unfortunate. It's a 3-hour show, and they're not taking advantage of the 3 hours in any capacity.
They're not. And it's frustrating because there's so much incredible talent on SmackDown, and the fact that it's not being showcased is a crime.
And Raw was pretty damn good, which came out of nowhere. I remember going into Raw, I didn't have a lot of hype and excitement. For Seth Rollins, I did. But it's been so unpredictable. Raw has been unpredictable in terms of what is going to happen, who versus who, the past couple weeks. Because I remember the Raw after Mania, you had Jay. It looked like it was going to be Jay, Sammy, maybe.
Yeah, man, I had PTSD on that with Sammy just looking up at him.
Yeah.
Everybody felt the same way, like he's gonna turn, and then he didn't. It's like, oh, when's that gonna happen?
So then you also had, like, it looked like it might be a triple threat again rematch from Mania of maybe Seth, Roman, Punk, because all three were still feuding, all three were coming out, and then Braun came out, and it was like, oh, it's gonna be a tag team match. This is sick. And then Roman is gone. Punk was gone for a while. And then it's just been such a, who the hell is Jey Uso going to fight? Who the hell is Seth Rollins going to fight? And Seth Rollins has been targeting a different guy friggin' every week since coming back. So out of nowhere was this Seth Rollins, Jey Uso. It was just so out of left field where it was like, okay, people knew it was coming because obviously Seth needs to be in that title picture, but nobody expected it just on a random episode of Raw like that, out of nowhere with no build. It was great. It was really great.
Yeah, I'm not complaining, but I loved it. But we need something.
We definitely need something, but we are moving our segment now to current wrestling news. I need like a transition noise. Ashley, give me a transition noise. Destiny, give me a transition noise. All right, we'll talk about it. We'll workshop it. Lots of wrestling news this go round, starting with what everybody's talking about. WWE releasing, I believe the total list came to 15 names, but it might even be more than that because a couple have come out since then of extenuating circumstances here. So we're going to give minor thoughts and feelings about each superstar that we kind of list here. I don't want to go too in depth. These are people who their lives and careers have just changed, so I don't want to do like I've seen people make tier lists about this, things like that. I think we'll keep it more respectful, and we will talk about just kind of wasted potential, because I feel like there's a lot of that in terms of what we have here, especially with not only NXT, but WWE now owning AAA and WWE's partnership with TNA. They have more excuses now than ever to send these stars elsewhere, as opposed to just being like, hey, you're done, see you later. So Dakota Kai is the first name on this list I have pulled up here.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a big one. There
are a lot of names on this list. This is probably the one that hit me the most because I love Dakota so much and because she was just in the finals to crown the first ever women's intercontinental champion. I've always been a huge Dakota Kai fan. The first time she was released, it broke my heart, and this time it breaks my heart even more. Obviously, maybe this is just me trying to rationalize and make it a little more digestible, but the only reason I see them releasing her is how injury prone she is, because it feels like as soon as she would have a good match, as soon as she would be on a roll, as soon as she would be active for a month, tops, she would get injured again. Whether it was her knee, her ankle, her head, or whatever it was. It just seemed like there was always something with her. So I hope that with her release, she has the ability to move forward and kind of focus on her health and maybe even like find ways to strengthen those parts of her body that were getting injured quite often. Or just, I don't even know how to even do that, because, I mean, it's not something that she's doing on purpose, and it's honestly not even stuff that's preventable. But when you have a list of that many injuries, she needs to take the time to properly heal her body and maybe even figure out ways to strengthen it even more than she has.
Yeah, it just sucks because she's 37, I believe, is what her age is pulling up as.
God, she looks 19.
She looks young. Her age really shocked me. And so it's one of those things where it's obviously we've had women like Mickie James who, oh my God, she's still amazing at the age she's at now. But it's rare that a lot of women continue to wrestle into their late 30s, early 40s. So it's.
But she's in the best shape of her career. She looks phenomenal. Dakota.
I agree.
She looks phenomenal.
I agree with you. The problem is she just left. This is her second release from WWE. And so you look at her now, and I feel like it's really... I don't think she's going to want to do indies anymore. I don't think she's going to be... maybe she does. Maybe she goes the Matt Cardona way and proves me wrong here. I just think she's at the point in her career where it's either AEW or bust right now. Where she either goes to... Because you look, and AAA is now WWE. TNA is now WWE for the most part. And so it's either TNA hires her and she can do something, kind of like Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth, sorry. Or try to do something with AEW. And it's a hard spot to be in for Dakota Kai because of her age and because of her injury proneness, I guess you would say. I think this was a dumb move on WWE's behalf. Even if she's injury prone, she's enough of a character in the sense of the fans know exactly who she is. They can easily transition her. Every time she got injured, I feel like she still never really left the screen. because Damage Control, Bayley debuted that in 2022, I believe it was, and made it such a big thing, and took these two women in, and these two women have now carved a staple for themselves in the women's division. And Dakota Kai was never really felt as like a intimidating presence like Io Sky is, but it's in the sense of she has a name, people know who she is, and it's kind of a rare trait for the women's. It's not as much now, but you rewind 2 years ago, a lot of these women were coming in and nobody knew who they were, and they were given the most ridiculous, crazy names out of nowhere. I'll rest my case with that, but I think this is a dumb part on WWE's, because she could have easily been if at the absolute lowest, she could have been the J&J security type role of just a fodder for Io Sky, for Io's foreseeable WWE future. But as it stands right now, it looks like Damage Control is pretty much done. Braun Strowman.
Another second timer on the release list. I have always been a Braun Strowman fan. I love Braun Strowman. He has so much potential, and I know that obviously he's been making headlines because Paul Heyman said to him at the roast, "You were left off WrestleMania because you suck." My thing is, I don't agree, because of the matches that he had with Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, Big Show, and so many more. And the character that he had, and the ability to speak on a microphone that naturally that he had, I truly believe that him not being a dominant world champion is one of the biggest fumbles of WWE in recent memory. Because not only does he have everything you need to be a superstar, but he was also a great ambassador outside of the ring. He is a great person. He did a lot for WWE's partnership with Make-A-Wish. He would go to children's hospitals and meet children there. He also, I believe, did kind of, I don't know if it's still called Be a Star, but he did those rallies to talk to kids in schools. This man was everywhere, almost in a Titus O'Neil type of situation where he was an ambassador for the company. And to not have Braun Strowman in that role is very heartbreaking, because he is such a genuine person and a genuine soul. I truly do wish the best for him. I don't know where he goes from here. I would love to see him go and be a dominant force in a large company like a TNA or like an AEW, but with the landscape that is pro wrestling right now, I just don't see how he fits. I hope that he proves me wrong. Maybe he takes some time to continue fishing, hunting, and jet skiing like he already is. Looks like he is enjoying his time as a release superstar, but I do want to see him back in the ring again in any capacity, because that man has so much untapped potential, and he does have so much talent, even if Paul Heyman, of all people, says he sucks.
Yeah, I to me, he's the greatest big guy of all time. Not including guys like, of course, Undertaker and Kane. When I say big guy, I mean a guy who wrestles as a giant. Undertaker, Kane wrestled more like the brawler, powerhouse, the giant, the immovable force, the Andre the Giants, the Big Shows, stuff like that, where he was called the monster among men for a reason, because he was one. And if you didn't watch WWE during that time I remember when he came onto the roster, and there was rumors, he did his first Royal Rumble as part of the Wyatt family, and there were rumors that it was maybe going to be Braun Strowman versus Undertaker at WrestleMania. And I was like, I swear he was greener than grass at this time. And I was like, I swear to God, if they waste the Undertaker on this fucking Braun Strowman guy, I will be livid. And they didn't. I think they ended up doing Taker Shane that year at Mania. I think that was Taker Shane that year, or maybe it was... No, I think it was 2017. Yeah, Taker Shane?
Well, 2017 was Taker Roman. 2016 was Undertaker Shane at WrestleMania 32 in Hell in a Cell, where I was there.
Okay.
I do believe it was Roman Reigns the next year.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things where Strowman is so good. His battles with the Big Show, the Elimination Chamber match where it was 7 men instead of 6 men, and Braun Strowman eliminated fucking everybody except Roman, who was able to beat him, was a star-making performance. And the fact that Goldberg lost his last match to Braun Strowman, dropping the Universal title to him at WrestleMania, is completely overlooked. Braun Strowman's last actual WrestleMania match was beating fucking Goldberg for the world title. And this is what he's been pegged down to. And the recent matches he's had, and we're talking about old Strowman because he was gold, but Braun Strowman this past year has helped massively get over, what the hell's his name? Not Otis, god damn it.
Bronson Reed.
Bronson Reed.
Bronson Reed.
And I believe his feud with Jacob Fatu should not have been over with. I think they had a couple great matches, but I think they needed to have one more, possibly at Backlash. Well, but what do I know? They needed to have one more big match to kind of put over Jacob Fatu. And Jacob Fatu defending his title against Braun Strowman would have been a sick first title defense and a great way to at least end off Braun Strowman on a strong note, giving him the respect he deserves and not just pulled out back after WrestleMania and old Yellard. It's bullshit. This one pissed me off more than anybody else because Braun Strowman, yes, you can't utilize him as a star. Yes, you can't push him anymore because there are younger, much more able, much more worth it superstars to get that push. But Strowman was a made man in the sense of at any point in time, if you wanted to help build a monster up, all you had to do was match him against Braun Strowman. And Braun Strowman was going to get the guy over in a big way. And now they've lost that. And I think what pisses me off more than anything is Strowman started his own wrestling company with EC3 of all people. And then WWE rehired him. Did nothing with him. They put him in a shitty tag team with Ricochet. Then he went out for surgery. And then he came back and he had these couple mini feuds. And now they fire him again. And it's like he's back to square one again when they should have just, if you didn't have plans to utilize him as a top guy in some capacity or to work with top guys to help get them over like they finally did this past year, why the hell did you bring him back? And it almost feels like a sabotage to get him to not, because obviously they weren't going to compete with WWE, but the Control Your Narrative project was very much hindered by Braun Strowman's return to the WWE, and that feels intentional, and I'm pissed about that.
I do wonder, there are a few names that were released, Braun Strowman included, that were more on the injury-prone side and had been sidelined multiple times in the last 2 years with injuries. So I wonder if that was a big contributing factor to a handful of these releases.
What I heard for Strowman was actually because of how much he was being paid. I heard he had a really big guarantee for his contract that when the higher ups, kind of like the board, the people above Triple H looked at it, they were like, why the hell are we paying this guy this much when we're not utilizing him as a guy who should be making this much? And so, and ultimately, from what I've heard, is Triple H actually had final say over these people who got cut. So Triple H was the one who made the final decision, yeah, let's get rid of this person, or no, we need to keep this person. So it really makes you wonder for these superstars, you know, God bless them all in their next ventures. But also, did any other names come across this desk that Triple H said, no, fuck this, I'm keeping this person? I would like to know that. I wish I could know that. I wish I could have been a fly on the wall for that. Because right now, Triple H looks like a very bad guy. And I'm wondering, did he just say, fuck it, let's get rid of everybody? And he really is the bad guy here? Or did he get a list of 45 names and stuck up for 30 really shocking names that we didn't end up getting here? We'll probably never know.
That's the story that I would like to believe. Me and my Triple H loving, optimistic ass are wanting to believe that, especially if it did originally come from the higher ups that have no idea what WWE is or is about, because those are business people. Those are people that look at the numbers. Those are not people that look at the actual product and the actual people behind them, and that have the actual people that have their names on these contracts. If they look at numbers and they look at the other finite details, of course it's not going to make sense to them. But when they look at it as with a broader spectrum like Triple H, I genuinely do believe that he probably did have to save a lot of other stars, and maybe there were other stars that the top executives wanted to get rid of more, but he had to fight extra. So he had to release this many stars in order to make up for the ones that he saved. I don't know. That's what I want to believe, but that doesn't make it any easier for all of the people that ended up getting released.
Yeah, definitely. Which brings us to our next one. Shayna Baszler. Crazy name.
How?
The fact that this woman retired Ronda Rousey, by the way, 2 years ago, less than 2 years, 18 months ago, and we're coming up on Women's Evolution 2. And now they release Shayna Baszler. I get it, because she hasn't been a top name. She's been the one who hasn't really won the big one. She needed that win over Becky at WrestleMania, and they didn't give it to her, which was especially stupid because then Becky relinquished her title a month later anyways, which, to be fair, they didn't know she was going to do. She didn't know she was going to do. She got pregnant and was like, oh, I'm keeping the baby. Fuck you guys. So... And
we talk about Shayna's promo afterwards where she was like, how stupid do you have to be in 2020 to get pregnant?
Yeah, I just can't believe she gets the rub from Ronda Rousey on the way out the door, and 18 months later, she's gone. Really crazy. I just cannot
stand the fact Shayna Baszler is one of my biggest what ifs in pro wrestling. She is the total package. She is phenomenal in the ring. She's great on the microphone. She can do it all, and she's a great character. She has a great look. Everything about her is so solid, and she's a solid and consistent performer. Everybody you put her in the ring with, they put on a performance of a lifetime. Having her as the runner-up in the Mae Young Classic was absolutely phenomenal. Shayna Baszler should have been a multi-time women's world champion before she retired, but instead she's a 0-time world champion and only had a tag team championship reign to her name, if that. And I know that she was one of the most dominant women in NXT history. But that's NXT. And the fact that success did not carry over onto the main roster is the biggest disgrace and the biggest slap in the face. I want to see from Shayna Baszler, I want to see her go to AEW immediately. And if she doesn't immediately go after Mercedes Moné, she needs to join the Death Riders and join her sister Marina Shafir. And she needs to kick the holy hell out of the entire women's division and even some members of the men's division, because I'm sick and tired of them holding her back. It's time for them to strap the rocket to Shayna Baszler and turn her into the star that she's always been destined to be.
Yeah, this could really be between this and between Bayley possibly getting her contract expiring here midsummer. Which, after WWE has done this, you have to consider they're probably making it a big priority to re-sign Bayley at this point, which even at that point, I don't know if Bayley would want to re-sign. But it's one of these things where WWE's women division is deep right now. They have a lot of talent, especially NXT. It is a very promising future for the women's division. And the smart thing to do is to keep that ball rolling and to kind of spotlight these women in different ways. You have these mid-card titles. One of them would have been perfect for Shayna Baszler to spotlight that championship, to finally give her that long-term title run and just have her be this dominant force and have women like Lyra have good showings against her to prove themselves. It would have been great to utilize Shayna for that. And now AEW has the opportunity to pick up a Shayna Baszler, a woman who can say, I retired Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey is one of 3 women who can claim that they main evented they were the first women to main event WrestleMania. That is Becky Lynch, that is Ronda Rousey, that is Charlotte Flair. And one of those women has since retired because of Shayna Baszler, via storylines, of course. This was Ronda's one of her best friends in real life, and she was like, I want her to get the rub, which is why Baszler was in that position to begin with. However, it's just kind of dumb that they did this, which I feel like a lot of these I'm just kind of looking at, shrugging my shoulders and being like, this is dumb. Why the hell would you do this? Including Kaden Carter and Katana Chance. Because these women...
This is exactly what I can't... Because you know that I am such a huge advocate and such a huge supporter of women's wrestling. Here's my beef. They create a women's tag team championship on the main roster and one in NXT. They create the women's intercontinental and the women's United States championships. They are building the cornerstones for a women's mid-card division. And yet they released the entire women's mid-card. And they also had to, because of a lack of booking of women's tag teams, they had to combine the WWE and NXT women's tag team championships. The fact that there are maybe 3 women's tag teams that are an actual tag team, and they just released one of the top ones, one of the most consistent ones, one of the most solid ones. The fact that they are releasing every woman that has the potential to hold all of these championships and to carry the division forward and to carry the company forward for years to come is just baffling to me. It is mind-blowing. Like, how can you be so mind-bogglingly stupid? Like, I'm betting you that so many women were released. I can't even imagine the ones that were pitched to be released, because this is such mind-boggling bullshit for me. The fact that there are there are more opportunities for women to be successful in wrestling right now than there have ever been, and yet so many of them are getting released for absolutely no reason. I completely understand that there are so many stars on the rise, from Julia, Roxanne, Stephanie, Jordan, and everyone else in NXT. That roster is beyond stacked. And you also have a phenomenal women's division in WWE. But the answer is not getting rid of the stars of today. The answer is expanding and giving more opportunities. And you can't create these opportunities, and then something that you've said to me, you can't create these opportunities, these championships, and then leave them off of WrestleMania. It just doesn't work. The fact that they're creating these platforms for women to succeed, and then once the women ascend to the top of that platform, there's nowhere else for them to go, and then they get released. I know that I'm like rambling, and I know that a lot of what I'm saying isn't cohesive and doesn't make sense, because none of this makes sense. None of these names that are on this list make sense.
Well, and this is what I'll say.
I'm so mind-boggled right now.
This is what I'll say to that is, these women, I guarantee, were not pulling fucking $1 million contracts. These women were not expensive to have around. This is this in my opinion is the equivalent of releasing Matt and Jeff Hardy in 1999. These women are not stars yet. They are names that are recognized. You kind of see them and you're like, yeah, I know these two. But they're a tag team, they're a unit, and they work amazing as a unit. As individuals right now, they are weaker performers just because it's Shawn Michaels and the Rockers right now, right? Nobody looked at Shawn Michaels in 1989 and went, that guy's going to be a future world champion. But I guarantee that these women, it's the Hardys, it's the Usos. You look at the Usos in 2011 and tell me one of them was going to go on to be a Royal Rumble winner who wins the title, wins the world championship at WrestleMania. And I would have laughed in your face.
I would have hung you in the town square.
And
I would have hung you in the town square for insanity.
These women fit that bill perfectly. They have that talent. They don't have the experience, and they don't have the recognition next to their name yet. But I guarantee if you gave them another 3-4 years as a tag team And then you continue to build out this depth between the two of them in their relationship, and you either solidify the fact that they are a team, that they are together, that they do support one another, like the New Day, like the Usos, or you can start driving a wedge between them and give them their first real story, singles-wise, to go between, or you can, like, Kofi Mania it, where one of them gets injured, one of them is sidelined, and the other one gets pushed forward. There's so much here that you could do where these women 10 years from now could be top level stars. And until the time they get there, they're not going to be paid very much. They're not a hindrance to your roster. They're not costing you that much. There is no reason to release these women. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Speaking of Kofi Kingston. Cora Jade. What?
I think this one didn't hit me that hard, but it was probably, for me, the most shocking. I do think this is another one of those cases where she was a little bit on the injury-prone side, but this woman should have been a multi-time NXT Women's Champion. The feuds that she had with Roxy and her star power were untouchable. She was a driving force for so many feuds in NXT. I even had her as one of my surprise appearances in the Rumble. Obviously, it didn't happen, but it absolutely should have. The fact that Cora freaking Jade, who's basically a mentee of CM Punk himself, the fact that she got released is confusing and mind-boggling to me. I
feel like she's one of the...
I do see her going... She's gonna go somewhere, and she's gonna be successful wherever she goes, and maybe she'll come back in 3 to 4 years, but... Good lord. This one didn't make sense to me.
I do see that. I think she's gonna come back. I think this is 3-4 years from now, she's gonna make her return. She's 24 years old. This is the most shocking part to me. She is so young, and she is a niche character, meaning that she's like Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens. She's one of those characters where she doesn't need to be relevant in a title picture to have the audience care about her. She has enough character going for her where at any point in time you could insert her in a title picture and she will make it make sense, or you could have her feud for some entirely different reason and she will make it make sense. She's a very versatile performer, and seeing her on this list was for me, I felt just like Destiny, where I was like, I mean, I guess I just don't see why you would unless she was making an ungodly amount of money. But even then, the thing that pisses me off more than anything is we have just spent the last 4 months hearing Triple H say this is a record-breaking gate. This is a record-breaking, not pay-per-view, what the hell is it called? Premium live event. Like, we have made more money in merchandise, in attendance, in buy rates, in everything across the board. We have never been this rich before. But we're not going to pay these 15 superstars so they can take a fucking hike. Like, you can't brag about how fucking rich you are and then make poor people decisions right a week later. It's fucking dumb. And you're going to get judged for it. She was born in 2001. What the fuck? Sorry.
The fact that she's only 24. No, please pop off, because that's exactly what I'm talking about. The fact that she was literally, like you said, born in 01. She's 24 years old, and you're not going to invest in the future? Because you said it. I know they're not paying her the big bucks right now. She would get them in the future, but holy hell. The fact that this woman is only a one-time NXT Tag Team Champion, and it only lasted like a day because she attacked Roxanne basically the next night. The fact that she never won a women's championship in NXT is mind-boggling to me. I do think that they were going to set her up to win once or twice, and then she got injured. Like I said, there's a lot of injury-prone people on this list, but my God, people always make the argument that you can't you can't strap the rocket to somebody who's getting older. Well, this woman's not old. This woman is 24, and she has her entire career ahead of her. So instead of taking the time to invest in her and to make her what you want her to be for your product, instead you are sending her out to other promotions, to other organizations, and she's going to be molded into something other than your prototype, which is good. That's what we as wrestling fans need and what she as an individual deserves. But are they just going to undo all of that beautiful work over the next 3 to 4 years when she comes back?
Yeah.
Again, it does not make sense.
Neither does Gigi Dolan.
For fuck's sake, this woman was literally at ringside with Tatum Paxley on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
Just 2 weeks ago?
And they fought for... She was a part of that match? No. Who was the tag team match? Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez versus who? Absolutely was Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez versus Gigi Dolan and Tatum Paxley. NXT, April 22nd, 2025. They just had the match.
April 22nd. It literally just happened. This woman had all of this. So Gigi Dolan was in Toxic Attraction with Mandy freaking Rose. And then she goes off and joins this phenomenal tandem of Tatum Paxley herself and Shotzi. These women were making waves in NXT. These women were making waves on social media. These three were beyond perfect together. There was no reason to split them up. There was no reason to release Gigi, and there was no reason to not re-sign Shotzi. Spoiler alert for later in the pod. But oh my god, I'm so furious because this woman has so much untapped potential. She never really got the rocket strapped to her. And a lot of women on this list have so much more potential and star power than a lot of the women that they kept around. Full offense to JC Jane, but you are a nobody compared to Gigi Dolan.
Jesus.
Same with everybody else that is aligned with JC Jane right now. That stable, whatever they're called, they have no reason to be around if you're not going to have Chemical X. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, I will say, Shotzi, also not included in this list in the traditional sense, as she was not released per se. However, her contract is expiring very soon, and she was informed they are just not renewing her contract. So, it is bullshit. This Shotzi, 33 years old. Honestly, I kind of like this for Shotzi, though, because I feel like WWE is never going to pull the trigger on Shotzi. She was never going to amount to anything in the company. They had a couple opportunities to really build her up, and they never did. And so I do think she's young enough to rock her way through the independents and kind of just have fun with it. And I think she's going to have a very Matt Cardona run of the indies where she just gets to pop around from promotion to promotion and just do dumb shit like she likes to do. So I am excited for that. We're going to start going...
The thing that I'm the most mad... I was just going to say, the thing that I'm the most mad about is this woman literally went straight to a WWE live event from her wedding and wrestled in her wedding dress. And yet they couldn't find a reason to keep her around. This woman did anything and everything for them. She shaved her head for them. She did all sorts of crazy stuff for them. And the fact that they couldn't return the favor, even 1% of the favor. It's just disgusting.
Those are the big names that got released here. We are going to start going through these a little faster here. A lot of NXT.
There's one that I will not be fast about.
NXT. I know exactly who she's talking about. A lot of NXT.
Because I already posted about it.
So not a ton of mainstream exposure here. Eddie Thorpe has been released. He was literally involved in major storylines for the last several months. He was literally in the main event picture. But okay, let's get rid of him. Riley Osborne has been released. Or I guess fuck. I'm
sorry, I don't know what to say. I hate Chase University, so I'm not going to say anything.
Chase U was kind of ridiculous. And the fact that they just brought it back, though. That's
way.
the thing. They just brought it back. They just teased this whole return of it, and now they're like, well, see you later, bub. Oro Mensa.
Metaphor. A heart.
Javier.
Thank you, HBK, for the beautiful thing.
Yeah. Javier Bernal.
Beautiful salute. I really liked Big Body Javi. I hope that he does something going on from here.
The Coffee brothers, Mark Coffee and Joe Coffee.
They literally trained The Rock for his match at WrestleMania 40!
Yeah, these two are going to do great things in AEW. I guarantee it. This is going to be one of the first pickups that AEW has, is Joe Coffey and Mark Coffey. AEW loves their tag teams. And I feel like these two versus the Fuck the Revival is going to be a pretty damn good matchup to check out there. So look forward to that.
And not to be remiss, but we also have to mention Wolfgang along with the Coffey brothers. Gallus was a true force in NXT UK and even in NXT. I'm just excited to see where they go from here.
Yeah, so Wolfgang was my next one there. Now, there are two names left here. One I wanted to give a special shout out to here, Danny Palmer. She has announced after this that this is, she's kind of teased that this is probably her retirement from professional wrestling. She hasn't outright said that, but she is very heavily indicated, saying this was my last match, and for my last match, I'm very happy it was against, I don't remember who it was against. She had a very amazing closing pin segment. I don't know what I'm trying to say. They had a great sequence at the close of their match, which is like 30 seconds back and forth of some rapid fire pin reversals, which was really sick. But she did get injured in her final match there, and WWE has released her before she got to fight another time. So she did a big post saying she's glad that her final time in a wrestling ring was with that other individual and with the referee who was refereeing the match. So it does seem like Danny Palmer is waving the flag and saying she's done with her athletic career for the most part here.
I just looked it up, and her final match was against Callie Armstrong. So I have seen big things from her. I really do look forward to seeing her, but best of luck to Danny Palmer and everything that she has moving forward. It does look like a pretty sick match, and her athleticism is insane. But yeah, take the time to heal up, sweet girl.
And I'm just going to I don't have strong feelings about this next lady. Miss Destiny Diamond fucking worships her, I guess. Famously partners with Lash legend there. Jakara Jackson, officially released from WWE.
I won't say I worship her, but there was no reason to get rid of this woman. Her and Lash Legend were a phenomenal tag team. They were put on the Saudi Arabia card. They had matches against Jade and Bianca. They were heavily involved in the, not NXT, but the women's tag team title scene. Jakara Jackson was about that action and doing it like no other. This woman had an aura about her that no other woman does. And the fact that she can just be one of those characters in the background and still steal the show with her lollipop doing her thing. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson, but you had no reason to be released. There's no reason for you to not be called up to the main roster immediately. There's no reason for you to not be rising up with Lash Legend. Lash is an absolute star. A superstar, a megastar, and I'm excited for everything that's gonna go for her. But Jakara should have been right there with her. She could have been her tag team partner. She could have been a valet manager type of situation. She could have just been her best friend. Seeing one half of Metaphor be released broke my heart because they were the most entertaining part of NXT for me. And the fact that they made several main roster appearances truly shows me that whoever was in charge of her release and responsible for her release had absolutely no idea what was going on. And something that I think is important to note is how, as we mentioned, Gigi Dolan being at ringside on a Monday Night Raw. We had the exact same treatment for Jakara Jackson. I truly believe that there is a miscommunication, even potentially between Shawn and Triple H, because Shawn lost some major stars, some of his main people that he was booking on his shows consistently, and now they're gone, and that's going to shake up NXT in ways that he probably couldn't have predicted. I do think he knew about some of them ahead of time, which is why he did the metaphor goodbye on NXT last week. But I just think that I want Shawn to really fight for his stars the way that we hope Triple H did. Seeing so many of Shawn's main event stars getting released is just heartbreaking, especially with the talent that they all possess, because he wouldn't have put them in that spot if they didn't deserve it and if they weren't actually being successful in that role.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's my rant. I could say a million other things about her because she's so phenomenal in every way, shape, and form, but yeah, I'm just livid about that one. That's probably the one that pissed me off the most.
Yeah, I will. I'm just kind of reading through here real quick, because it's everything I'm reading is saying Shawn Michaels had no part in the releases for WWE. I don't know what kind of heads up he was given.
He couldn't have. Yeah. He couldn't have had any role in it. He couldn't have.
I just think, like, there needs to be better communication. I remember the number of times Triple H got fucked running NXT from Vince. Vince just randomly deciding, right? Okay, I'm going to call this guy up, figure it out. You got him for 2 more weeks. And it feels like Shawn didn't even get that notice because of these. None of these storylines were wrapped up properly. They just brought Chase U back. The fact that one half of the women's tag team that just fought for the titles was released. Like, there's so many names that are like, why the hell would they have so much going on and they're just gone now? It does not make sense. And
none.
The one more name I do want to bring up to you, kind of around the rumor mill. Let me see if any more news has come out about it. Shinsuke Nakamura.
I did see something about that. I don't remember exactly what it was, but then I saw that he was going to be adopting Meiko Satomura's finisher as his own to pay homage to her 30-plus year career. So he's actively training. I don't think he's released, because I feel like if he legitimately was, it would have been a bigger deal and it would have been bigger news. I think it is just rumor mill on the internet. But only time will tell.
Yeah, I think it's the Shotzi situation where they have decided not to renew his contract. As of right now, it is still kind of undecided as to where Shinsuke Nakamura's status currently stands. That is the last update we have. So we will leave it at that for WWE releases and kind of look at for how contracts work in AAA, when WWE, which the deal has not been fully inked yet. WWE has not. Why is your jaw dropped? What's happening?
I'm so sorry. I pulled up Twitter to see if I could find what I had seen about Shinsuke. Breaking news out of NXT.
Oh.
Would you like to know who entered the Battle Royal tonight to crown a new number 1 contender?
Fucking Joe Hendry, probably.
Who wants to walk with Elijah?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I gotta put up with this asshole again. Oh.
Elijah back in NXT, most likely for one night only. I'm stoked for this. Sorry to interrupt, August. Please continue.
Fine. So WWE has not fully inked the deal, from what I understand, of AAA. It's like a 90% done thing. They're just working out the final details, so it is going to happen, right? Barring some crazy incident from taking place. But it is going to happen. However, the talent acquisition is not as clear cut as when they buy AAA, they need to re-sign each superstar individually because of how the contracts were set from Mexico, and now they're going to be set via the US. So it is not a clear, oh, well, we can just pay off this person's contract as it's set. Everybody has to ink new deals. And one of the first names that has been announced to have inked a new deal is Alberto Del Rio. Actually, his name's
I don't want to talk about it.
Alberto El Pastion. I don't know how to say his name. He's a piece of shit as a person. That's what I know. I'm not happy about this in any capacity. I've never been a Del Rio fan. They were high on him in 2010, 2011, pushing him as a next top star. And then he came back in John Cena's Open US Challenge in 2015, 2016, re-debuted again, and they pushed him to the moon.
The fact that he came out with Zeb Coulter, what the fuck?
Yeah, and now I pray he's the current champion at AAA, and so I really hope it's a case of they're just keeping him with the AAA promotion, and that he will not be making, if he wants to go to not NXT, if he wants to go to TNA, do some partnership there, whatever. I don't want him on a WWE screen again. I think that's bullshit. If you want to dig more into him and who he is as a person, you're more than welcome to. But as far as I'm concerned, he's a piece of shit. However, Destiny did send me a tweet, an X post of just a snippet that says WWE has a chance to do the funniest thing right now, because this officially means that Rusev, Alberto Del Rio, Sheamus, and Wade Barrett are all signed by WWE in 2025, which is pretty crazy. Meaning if they wanted to, they could technically bring back the League of Nations. Will they ever do this? No. At least not with the full four. But I do find that fucking hysterical. And I'm pissed you sent that to me because I saw it and I added it to the slideshow to kind of talk to you about. And then I saw you sent it to me and I'm like, son of a bitch, that would have got her so good.
It would have. I would like to touch on the Del Rio situation real quick, because here's the thing. I truly don't like to be this person. I don't like to be as dramatic as the other people on the internet. I don't like to feed into the dramatics of the internet. But the fact that they just released 15 superstars, and the majority of them were women, and the fact that they're bringing in a literal abuser, and they also signed somebody that Stephanie Vaquer has a restraining order against, it just shows me that they don't give a flying fart about the women. And I really, like I said, I don't like to be that person, because I know that things have changed so much for the better, and I know that Triple H has created such a healthy work environment.
No, fuck that. You're 100% in the right with this, and fucking own it.
I'm fucking pissed, because they literally talk about how they're going to build the women's mid-card division by creating these 2 new championships, and yet they can't find a single match for them at WrestleMania. And they just released 10 plus women from this roster, and they just butchered the women's tag team division. They butchered the women's mid-card division, and now they are literally bringing in somebody who has restraining orders against them, and another person that has restraining orders against them. Somebody that literally physically and emotionally and mentally abused multiple women. Somebody who kidnapped children, who drove them across country lines. Somebody who literally endangered the lives of so many innocent people. And there are people that are being brought into this organization right now. I can only hope and pray that WWE is doing it in a way that they can buy out their contracts and then send them down the river. But Alberto Del Rio deserves to rot in hell, and anybody that has anything to do with him being a star does too. I'm so fucking livid right now. Like, you have no fucking idea. I'm actually shaking.
Yeah, and as you have every fucking right to, because I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying. It is absolute bullshit.
Fucking hate him. And
moving on from AAA signees, specifically Del Rio there. We kind of chatted about that. Quick side note for Liv Morgan here, talking about the women's division and the women's tag team division, because I've heard of calls of people saying they should strip them of the women's tag titles if Liv can't defend the title. Liv's only going to be gone a couple
I don't agree
weeks.
with that, but-
Liv, literally, I have the details of her contract here. She is filming a movie, and a news report has detailed that she will be a co-starring role in Takashi Miike's Bad Lieutenant Tokyo. And it was noted on Raw she would be taking time off to film the movie. However, her filming dates expire on the 16th of May. So in literally 10 days, she wraps up filming. So she will be back in about 2 weeks' time. Probably. She'll obviously have reshoots in the future if anything comes up, things like that. So her filming isn't going to be done for this movie like everybody's making it out to be. But for the most part, it's about 2 to 3 weeks of solid filming time, and then she's pretty much done with her part in the movie. Which, as I understand, her character is a famous man's daughter. It's like a Taken situation. She's a hostage, from what I've read. I haven't tried to read too much on the movie. I just wanted to see what her role would be, and apparently she's playing a rich man's daughter, which I am excited to get to see. She's Liv fucking Morgan.
I'm excited to see her because if he like the way that she like makes her face all, and like kicking and thrashing, like I can see her being abducted and making those exact moves like she does in the ring. Something that I want to touch on is what you talked about, how people are saying that she needs to be stripped of the titles. First of all, there are so many male superstars that we could talk about and bring this up, but I'm not going to get into that. She's, like you said, she's only going to be gone for about 2, maybe 3 weeks. But also it's Liv Morgan. Let's not, and this is coming from somebody who is not a Liv Morgan fan. I want that on record. Liv Morgan has literally carried the women's division for the last year, maybe even year and a half. That woman has won the women's championship. She beat Rhea Ripley. She stole her man. She won the women's crown jewel championship. She won the women's tag team championship twice in dominant fashion. She has been an ambassador for this organization and for this company forever. She brought the tag team titles to the premiere of Barbie. I would also like to point that out. She did that 2 years ago. She's just been anywhere and everywhere, and she's been representing WWE beautifully. And seeing her do the same thing on the red carpet with this film is so exciting. And that's why she needs to continue to have the championship so that she can have proper representation and bring bigger eyes and better eyes to the product.
I do want to give a shout out. This was from 8 days ago. Somebody posted up that Liv will be taking time off due to filming a big Hollywood movie. And on Reddit, someone says, no one knows what movie. And someone else responded, Marine 9. To which someone else responded, I would watch the fuck out of a camp reboot of the Marine series starring Liv. So
I would too.
It's the Marine starring Liv would be absolutely incredible. Liv's a fucking star.
She is. I have to direct your attention to a tweet that I'm about to send you. Now, this is kind of taking a little bit of a step back because we were talking about the releases and the rumors of Shinsuke Nakamura. So I saw an image and it has 4 superstars on it. And 2 of them are Shane McMahon and Shinsuke. And the other 2 are Shawn Spears and Sheamus. Now, the way that my heart sank into my stomach because I thought that Shawn Spears and Sheamus had been released because of the Shinsuke rumors and also Shane McMahon being on there and he hasn't been seen in years. But it turns out this is the active roster page, and somebody tweeted, does anyone actually know the true answer of why Shane McMahon is still on WWE's active roster page? And then a crying emoji. But the way that my heart was like, oh my god, Shawn Spears just came back and Sheamus literally just returned last night on Raw. I was so concerned. I was like, what happened? It was insane. But anyway, Sheamus and Shawn Spears are alive and well, and hopefully so is Shinsuke. I don't know what the hell's going on with Shane O'Mac, but more power to him. Keep doing you.
Yeah, more power to him is the best way to go. The worst way to go, however, a WWE legend has been arrested very recently. Ashley, I don't know. Destiny, I don't know if you've heard about this. One of my favorites back in the day. I'm sure yours as well, viewing audience member. Duke the Dumpster Drowsy. Back when
of course,
mid to late 90s, where WWE went, well, every job should have a gimmick attached to it. So the garbage man, Duke the Dumpster, was amazing. I think the only match of his I've actually ever seen was a Royal Rumble appearance or two.
Mine, the only one I've actually watched of his is the Gimmick Battle Royal at WrestleMania 25 with, I want to say, Bobby the Brain Heenan and Gene Okerlund on commentary.
So one of those, yeah, it was pretty bad charges. I don't want to get into them because then YouTube will shadow ban the shit out of this video, but it does involve underage, and it does involve bad images. So it's a pretty bad ordeal. He did turn himself over willingly to the police as soon as his warrant was issued there. So hopefully you get the help you need there, bud. Not why I wanted to see your name. He's not getting a Legends contract anytime soon. I'll just say that. We'll leave it at that. Jesus.
And in my opinion, in situations like this, I hope the help that you get is a noose. Go to hell.
Money in the Bank. I wanted to touch upon something here because I saw a couple people post that John Cena should enter Money in the Bank, win the briefcase to further his plot of ruining wrestlings. That way nobody can cash in the Money in the Bank on him as champion. Which I thought was just the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. And the only thing that's stupider is the fact that I could see them fucking doing this. That was a long one. So
yeah.
Stepping back in, if you're wondering why there was a hard cut there, well, check out the episode going up here in a couple days where we do a whole dissection of the history of Money in the Bank, of its importance, and of why it's not as important today, maybe, as it possibly used to be. Kind of confusing. Destiny, we're hanging in there together. Talking about more news.
Now, but there's something I would like to touch on before we move on, just really quickly. We're talking about Money in the Bank, right? Money in the Bank is coming up. I want to hear your thoughts and your opinions and your predictions for who is going to win the Money in the Bank contract for the men and for the women.
The question you kind of have to ask yourself is, who are they going to cash in on? I like to book backwards. That's the smartest way to do it for me. So I don't go, who needs this? But I go, what champion will be cashed in on that makes sense? And are the current champions going to get to that state? Yeah, I don't think, unless they really want to double down. I mean, you could have LA Knight be Mr. Money in the Bank, cash in on Cena, and then lose. Are you kidding? Cena.
God.
Talk about ruining wrestling.
Cody, since we're talking Money in the Bank, I think that it's important to get our predictions out there, and I've had my predictions for a very long time. Honestly, I've had them picked out for years. But the thing is, this year is the time for both of these superstars. Now, appropriately enough, both of them just lost their United States Championships. And of course, as I've said at WrestleMania, Jacob Fatu taking the United States Championship off of LA Knight is the way to get him into the proper scene that he deserves, and LA Knight is going to be successful, and he will become Mr. Money in the Bank. Now, imagine, I said this last year and the year before, he would be a perfect menace to be Mr. Money in the Bank. I would love nothing more to see it, and I think that this is the perfect way to get a world championship on him. He's more than deserving. He is an absolute megastar, and everybody's saying LA Knight, as Mr. MITB. Now for the women, obviously I gave it away by saying she just lost her United States Championship. But this woman was my pick last year. I'm not mad at Tiffany. She was perfect. But this woman has the ability to be a better Miss Money in the Bank than Tiffany or Carmella. And this woman is perfect at everything. She's good at everything. And everything she has ever given turns to gold in more ways than one, and Chelsea Green is going to turn the Money in the Bank briefcase into gold around her waist once again.
I'm not mad at yours. Chelsea Green is wild, though, ma'am. I will say. I was not expecting that.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect.
You are so biased.
Like I said, LA Knight is going to be a menace. Yeah. Can you imagine the menace of Chelsea Green with the Money in the Bank, the Money in the Bank briefcase?
Yeah.
She's gonna be perfect.
I think Bianca Belair.
I'm not mad at it.
I just think they had her win Elimination Chamber, and it was kind of like oh shit, she exists and she's really good. I kind of forgot about that. Like, everybody knew, but she was such a back burner project the last couple years. And then she lost at WrestleMania, and we haven't really seen her since. Like, she showed up, she's like, time to focus on bringing the division back together. And now it's like, we haven't really seen her since then. And so I think they need to double down with pushing her. I think having her win, having her cash in her contract announced ahead of time, and pushing forward into because I said I think it's her versus Jade Cargill at WrestleMania next year, and I think Jade is going to win the Royal Rumble to make it happen. And I think this 100%. Is the steps to do that. So I'm going with Bianca Belair here. I absolutely think so.
I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. My thing is, she's already one of the biggest stars in the women's division. I feel like she almost has that. She almost has that ability to just say, I want a title match. And I mean, she was my pick to win the Elimination Chamber. Something I want to touch on, though, real quick. You are really high on getting women to announce beforehand that they're cashing in Money in the Bank. How dare you?
Nobody's done that yet. Not a single woman has announced beforehand. I guess Rob Van Dam was the second. I guess. Rob Van Dam was the second ever Mr. Money in the Bank, and he announced beforehand, I'm cashing in. And that, to me,
correct. And that was perfect for him.
And I think that would be perfect for Bianca. I don't think Bianca would be I don't think Bianca would cash in to take advantage of somebody, because she's had that done to her. Fair. She's had her title stolen like that, and I think Bianca would want to win it fairly.
That's fair. Yeah.
My other one is Naomi. Naomi could 100% win this.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying her. And
I'm going to stick with Bianca.
I can see it.
I'm going to stick with Bianca.
I can see it.
I think Bianca, and I think she's going to announce it ahead of time. This one, I'm really on the fence on, Destiny. It depends on if they want to do... It depends on how they want to do this. Seth Rollins is intriguing. Because Seth with the briefcase, Seth is a made man no matter what. But he's at the point where he is on the bubble of superstardom. He's a main eventer, guaranteed, a future Hall of Famer. But he's still not a CM Punk, and he's still not a Roman Reigns. And he is right there behind them in terms of star power. He needs one more big thing to push him there. And I think if he wins Money in the Bank, if he cheats Jey Uso out of the title, and he has a reign that goes up through Mania, I wouldn't be mad. But the other thing I'm thinking, and this is a crazy name, because this would be the first ever 3-time Money in the Bank holder.
No.
Who do you think I'm going to say?
You're going to say CM Punk.
CM Punk, baby. Imagine. Oh my gosh. Imagine. Okay, but picture, Ashley, John Cena and Seth Rollins as your world champions, with CM Punk holding the Money in the Bank briefcase for an entire year, egging them on as, hey, I can cash in at any time. He holds the ultimate golden ticket. It's too good to not have on television. And the fact you could see him, his hatred for Cena, or you could see him with his hatred for Seth, it would be the first time ever there is no clear indication of who he wants to cash in on.
Listen, that would be absolutely beautiful, but something I would like to explore real quick and expand upon, your original pick of Seth Rollins. Now, who is the only... Now, listen, we've had 3 men be 2-time Mr. Money in the Bank. Who's the only man to win the Money in the Bank ladder match twice?
CM Punk.
CM Punk. What other thing do you have to do to piss off CM Punk than to erase his legacy and tie that record? How perfect would that be with their story?
I agree. My only thing with it is the reason why I'm leaning more CM Punk is because this CM Punk is not 2009 CM Punk. It's not 2008 CM Punk. That was a young upstart who couldn't get the job done. He needed help to get into that main picture. This CM Punk is one who he has not been world champion in AEW. He has not been world champion in over
He was world champion in
12
AEW?
years. That's what I'm saying. But WWE's not going to say he was world champion 2 years ago. He has not been world champion in 12 years. It's a big. The question is, can CM Punk win the big one? And the answer right now is no.
Right.
He has a big win over Drew McIntyre.
He couldn't win either Royal Rumble, and he couldn't win a WrestleMania. What's next but Money in the Bank?
And he couldn't win an Elimination Chamber. So it's, if he finally has that golden ticket of, you sons of bitches, I finally got you. I can get my fair shot anytime I want. I just have to play it smart. And having a babyface CM Punk teasing cash-ins against a heel Seth Rollins and a heel John Cena is just take my fucking money. That would be so good to watch that torture happen. Ugh. Yeah.
Maybe he cashes in on the AAA world champion Del Rio.
Jesus. All right, I'm ending this. We're done.
All right, good night, guys. Shut up.
All right, well, Destiny, I'll let you deliver this next news here, leaving Money in the Bank in the past, because this was your one of the things you messaged me for. Big news for Big E.
It absolutely is. It was announced that Mr. Bigamous E. Langston himself has proposed to and is betrothed to the sister of Mia Yim. Congratulations to the future newlyweds. I am so excited for the two of you. Could not have happened to two better people, and especially the incredible, kind-hearted, lovable giant Big E.
Yeah, really, really cool news. Congratulations to you both on behalf of Believe Wrestling, our humble YouTube channel with 26 subscribers. We got nothing but love for y'all.
Now,
speaking
moving
of
forward,
nothing but love. Speaking of nothing but love.
Mr. Blaze, please tell us more about Mr. Benjamin Shelton.
My favorite black man in history, Mr. Benjamin Shelton. Hulk Hogan, by the way, a fucking goddamn legend, was doing an interview, and his exact quote here, I have it pulled up. Let me see if I can. Oh, I can. Hold on. Let me kind of center this better. Here we go.
Great guys like Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar, you know, they're Benjamin Shelton. There's some really tough guys.
Benjamin Shelton is incredible. Shelton Benjamin actually responded to this saying, "Message to Hulk Hogan, you lost me forever with you. Don't get caught," or as you would call it, apology speech. So rather than screw up my name and pretend we ever had any sort of camaraderie, which we never had, please do me a favor and keep my name out your fucking mouth.
Out your fucking mouth. Beautiful poetry.
Yeah, Benjamin Shelton is just incredible. You know what else is incredible? Scott Steiner. Did you see this, Ashley?
You know what, Blaze? I saw the Benjamin Shelton, but I did not see the Scott Steiner. So please take it away, my good man.
Okay.
Wait, was it more Steiner math? Because I did see the Steiner math.
There are two things with Scott Steiner that are very interesting. First off, absolutely, it was more Steiner math. Talking about the 100 gorillas versus 100, one gorilla versus 100 men. And
absolutely,
he tried to weigh in on it, and somebody said, well, can we get some Steiner math here? So he said, let's say you got 100 average men, no weapons, no training. They got fear in their eyes and dad bods in their way. Then you got one full-grown silverback gorilla, 600 pounds of pure rage, muscle, and tree-ripping power. Now here comes the math. Out of those 100 men, maybe 25% don't even show up once they see the gorilla. That's 25 cowards eliminated immediately. Then you got 33 and 1/3 of them trying to talk it out. They're done. Another 20% just stand there frozen, pissing their pants. Now you're left with about 21 guys, panicked, half committed, and getting launched like lawn darts. But what if Big Papa Pump's in the mix? You just tipped the freaking scale. Now it's not 100 men versus one gorilla. It's one gorilla versus the genetic freak. And that spells disaster for the gorilla. The Steiner math, baby. It's back. I wish this Scott Steiner was just every Scott Steiner. I fucking hated WWE Scott Steiner. If he was this, bro, how much love I would have had for this man. Now I do want to introduce a new segment that we will be jumping into on our next podcast. We are skipping it this go round, but I wanted y'all to have the chance to sound off some hot takes in the comments below, because our next new segment is now called Wrestling Hot Takes, where I'm going to take one of my controversial opinions. Destiny Diamond is going to take one of her controversial opinions, and we are each going to have 3 minutes to state what our opinion is and why we believe it is the truth. And when that timer dings, there's no more words that can be said about it. So we have 3 minutes to explain exactly why we believe this and why a majority of people are wrong in this. And then that's how we state our piece. So I want to hear some of y'all's hot takes down in the comments below. Don't leave us hanging. And definitely don't leave us hanging for the Q&A. We got some kick-ass questions these past couple weeks regarding our top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time, regarding Miss Destiny Diamond's WrestleMania Access experience, and our top 5 favorite wrestlers currently wrestling today, which of course includes Sheamus. Thank you very much. I rest my case. But we want more. We want more. Keep sending them our way. Our opinions on current storylines, on current wrestlers, on where we think things are happening, because we're just kind of riffing off each other at this point. But with y'all riffing with us, it's going to be a lot more fun. Destiny, anything we didn't talk about that you want to get off your chest here?
There is something that I think that we should mention. Now, I personally, sometimes I have trouble coming up with hot takes on the spot. I will have them up here, I'll have them on Twitter, but as soon as I'm put on the spot, everything leaves my brain. So, if you guys drop your hot takes down below, not only will that inspire us, but if you have a question that you think could inspire a hot take, please drop it down below. If you want to know who we think is the most underutilized or underrated superstar of all time, or even the greatest X, Y, or Z champion of all time,
Benjamin
or the
Shelton.
greatest match in a specific... Exactly. If you want us to talk about our favorite NXT match, NXT superstar, most underutilized, if you want us to talk about the most recent releases and which one pissed us off the most, please drop it down below. Our hot takes are also here for your hot takes. We want to hear your reactions to our hot takes, but we also want to be inspired by yours. So, if you have a question that you think is going to inspire us and light a fire under our ass, drop it down below. We cannot wait to be getting into our hot takes each and every week moving forward.
And that, ladies and germs, is how you end a podcast. Not only thank you for watching, but you're welcome for us putting on this spectacular show, because we have been fabulous, and so have y'all.